Here.
Councilmember Moy,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan, hopefully will be here shortly, Mayor Carroll.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The agenda is to, number one, introduce a special meeting of North. Our citizens' comments comes first. And Nicole, I think we have 7 comments.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to see, do I have that list? Ron? No.
No, but I'll be announcing them as I let them in.
That's
the
fine.
first individual who is signed up to speak is going to be Blair Hahn,
Okay.
who I am admitting to the meeting currently. Blair, can you hear us?
Yes, I sure can.
All right, give me just a second here. I'm going to ask you to start your video.
Yep. There we
If
go.
you would please share with us your name and address, and then we can begin.
Blair Hahn, 1000 Palm Boulevard, Isle of Palms.
The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you. Council, Mr. Mayor, the South Carolina Supreme Court supports the Isle of Palms' reasonable position to regulate public parking. The Supreme Court case Owens v. Owens makes it absolutely clear the rights, obligations, and privileges of all concerned. The court states, the use of streets for purposes of parking automobiles is a privilege. It is not a right, and the privilege of parking must be accepted with such reasonable burdens as the city may place as conditions on the exercise of such privilege. The city may enforce a fee to cover the expense of maintaining the regulation and to hasten the departure of parked cars. Given the Supreme Court's well-established position on this situation for more than 80 years, I am shocked that DOT Secretary Christy Hall has attempted to revoke the department's approval of the Isle of Palms 2015 parking plan. This is a power neither Christy Hall nor the DOT now or has ever had. In fact, Christy Hall agrees with the Supreme Court and South Carolina Code. Her 2015 letter to the Isle of Palms states that the island has the sole authority to regulate on-street parking per South Carolina Code. Ms. Hall's boss, then the Secretary of Transportation, followed up in a second letter that the DOT recognizes that the regulation of on-street parking is a responsibility assigned to local governments per South Carolina Code. By these 2 letters, the DOT has admitted it has no jurisdiction to tell this council how to regulate parking on island streets. The law in South Carolina is that the council has full, unfettered authority to regulate parking as it sees fit, with but one exception. The DOT's jurisdiction in this matter is limited only to its ability to remove parking that threatens the safety of motorists or interferes with the free movement of traffic. SCDOT, Senator Grooms, and others are misrepresenting the law and the facts concerning the Isle of Palms public parking for their own political purposes. I urge City Council to exercise its rights as recognized by the South Carolina Supreme Court and the South Carolina Legislature to provide safe, clean, secure, and fair public parking for all visitors and residents of Isle of Palms. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, sir. Nicole?
Depending on Ron, I think, since he's got the list.
Hang on just a second. So the next person to speak is going to be Ted McKnight. If his connection works. Ted, can you hear us? Ted, are you there?
You might be on mute, Ted.
There.
sir.
There he is. Ted, can you hear us now?
It seems to be connecting to audio.
At least no one's a cat yet.
You saw that. Do we want to come back to Ted?
Ted, we're gonna come back to you. I'm gonna put you back in the waiting room, and we will move on to the next person on the list. Okay, and so the next person up is going to be Jan Anderson. Hi, Jan, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you. Your 3 minutes begins whenever you're ready.
Okay, I don't know if I'm on video yet, am I?
Yes, you are. We can see you.
Okay, great. Jan Anderson, 44 Seagrass Lane. I appreciate all that City Council is doing for us in this situation, and I'd like to situation. I'm a traffic engineer with 40 years of experience dealing with traffic and parking conditions in situations like Isle of Palms has. So you've got the legal part of it, and then you've got the political part of what it is that you think you can do so that we can sort of live with South Carolina DOT going forward. And that's what I'm going to focus on. First of all, I'd just like to commend the City Council for what you did last summer in banning all parking on Palm Boulevard during the pandemic. It got the COVID virus totally under control on the island right away, and we have proof of that in the sewage testing that we did for COVID virus. It dropped dramatically after parking was prohibited during the pandemic. So we know how impressive the parking situation can be, but that's not a situation we can live with all the time. So what is it we can do going forward to get control of parking? First of all, I think the discussions I've heard about parking really do not distinguish between legal parking on the island and illegal parking. And as we all saw last summer, before those parking restrictions were put in place, there was double and triple parking along Palm Boulevard, most of it illegal. So if we can distinguish between legal and illegal parking, first of all, I think we'll get SCDOT's attention because they're not going to endorse any illegal parking situations. They want to remedy that too. In that situation, I know it's very difficult for our small police force, public safety force to regulate illegal parkers along Palm Boulevard. So is there a better way to do it so that we can actually invite our neighbors to come to the island and have them stay here, visit, and we can all enjoy the beaches, but not overburden our community? And my suggestion is simple. Y'all went at it asking for paid parking. Well, that seems to be a non-starter for the moment. So let's put that aside. What if we ask the South Carolina DOT to allow us to issue free parking passes so that before you come to Sullivan's Isle of Palms, you go online.
Ms. Anderson, you're at your 3-minute limit. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, if you want to know more about how free parking passes work, I'm available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ron.
All right, so our next individual up to speak is going to be, Gail Jordan. Gail, are you there? Can you hear us?
I'm here.
Okay. You are up on the city council meeting, and your 3 minutes begins whenever you are ready to start talking. If you would please give us your name and address for the record.
All right. You are speaking with Gail Jordan. I live at 3704 Palm Boulevard. And first, I would like to say that this is not about denying access to the beach to anyone. We welcome everyone to come out and be able to enjoy our beautiful beach. But access and parking are two different matters, two different definitions. Safety is our paramount concern here. And we know that we cannot accommodate thousands and thousands of vehicles who are being driven out here, and people trying to find a parking place, even looking for a free parking place. The situation is only going to worsen once the hotel is built in Wild Dunes. That's going to be at least another 200 vehicles, people staying in the hotel and people working there in the hotel. Palm Boulevard is the main way to get on and off the island, and everyone has to access it at some point. My other concern is when we have so many vehicles coming and being parked along the right-of-way, I'm short. I cannot even see over vehicles that are parked in the right-of-way in front of my home. There's no way I can turn out without just being stymied at most times because you can't see, and these vehicles are not slowing down. It's one after the other after the other. I worry how if there was an emergency here, if an ambulance or fire truck or the police could even get to my house on time. And my other concern had been that there are these ruts that had been left in the yard. DOT hadn't really addressed it. There were vehicles getting stuck out there. One time there was this truck. I happened to be out in my yard, and a young guy was in a truck. He was stuck in the ruts, and he kept spinning and spinning, and he would gun it. And there was a family, husband and wife, and a small child that were walking by. He almost hit that child coming out of that rut. I called and complained to the town numerous times, and our mayor got involved, and someone from the town were sent out. Several people were sent out. And in fact, our police chief came and was here and had to help push a woman in her vehicle out of the ruts that were in front of my house. And this is a dangerous situation, and we have to address that, the right-of-way, parking along that. And we have to come up with a solution because safety is our number one priority, as well as the livability of the people who live on Isle of Palms. So I appreciate everything that our council and mayor are doing and the other city personnel, but please continue to try to protect the people
Gail,
here.
I hate to interrupt, but that's going to be your 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All right, and now we have Dr. James Smiley. Dr. Smiley, are you there?
Jim, can you hear us? Yes.
Dr. Smiley, if you would please begin by stating your name and address, and then we'll begin your 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm here. Am I on?
Yes, sir.
You are on.
Thank you. My name is Jim Smiley. I live on 44th Avenue, and I've been a resident of the island. Yes, my name is James Smiley. My address is, okay.
Dr. Smiley, we can hear you. You can go right ahead.
So
Dr. Smiley, if you're watching the YouTube video, you will need to close that out. Otherwise, you're on a 20-second delay.
You're right back.
All right.
This is thank you. Does that help?
Yes, sir. You can go right ahead.
Am I on?
Yes, sir. We can see and hear you.
Nicole, I can see you. Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead and talk.
Okay, I don't have any video, but I'm going to go forward. You stop me if I need to be stopped.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
As you know, as you all know and appreciate, we live on a small barrier island with a beautiful public beach. The physical boundaries of the Isle of Palms are finite, and we cannot grow larger. However, just across the connector is a community seemingly without any constraints on growth. Since I've lived here for the last 50 years, the population of Mount Pleasant has grown from a small town of 6,000 to over 95,000, and Mount Pleasant is now the fourth largest city in the state. This unbridled growth of our neighbor has created problems. My city council has done its best to accommodate beachgoers while maintaining the sanctity of our residential areas and the livability of our community. However, at some point, we must recognize that our very finiteness sets a limit on the maximum number of visitors that can be accommodated by our infrastructure at any given moment. Realizing that things were getting out of hand, back in 2014, City Council undertook a monumental study of the ways to preserve livability for the island residents and our need to accommodate beachgoers. A managed beach parking plan was developed in 2015, and it's worth noting that the Secretary of South Carolina DOT, then Janet Oakley, wrote of the study, "I applaud you, City Council and staff, for your tremendous efforts in developing a program that is so comprehensive." In addition, SCDOT's Deputy Secretary for Engineering, Christy Hall, wrote in support of the managed beach parking plan that the regulation of on-street parking is recognized by SCDOT as a responsibility assigned to local governments by South Carolina law. She wrote further that the plan appears to be consistent with that responsibility, and her department found no apparent adverse impacts to our system or their ability to maintain the state system. Fast forward now 5 years, and we find that the island's responsibility under home rule to regulate parking within our limits, city limits,
Dr.
is
Smiley.
being challenged by the same bureaucrat, one
Dr.
Christy Hall,
Dr.
now
Smiley.
Secretary of
Dr.
South
Smiley,
Carolina
that's
DOT,
3 minutes.
who
I'm sorry to cut
recognized
you off,
5
but
years ago that this
we've
was the
reached the end of
problems
your time.
of the city.
Dr.
Dr.
At the
Smiley.
same time,
And so the next person that we have in the waiting room is going to be Sandra Hines. Sandra, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
If you would
Okay.
please start with your name and address, and then your 3 minutes will begin after that.
Okay, my name is Sandra Hines. I live at 624 Carolina Boulevard. There are a few points I would like to make first before I start. I'm concerned by speaking out that I will be harassed from the beach parking group. They have done so in the past by publishing names and addresses on their Facebook page. My 89-year-old mother lives with me and she is undergoing cancer treatment. Let me make this clear. In protecting her, I will have zero tolerance for any harassment. The city entered into an agreement in good faith with South Carolina DOT, which included Christy Hall, for a parking plan. How can towns and cities operate or rely on South Carolina DOT when they can change what they agree to at will? The city has asked South Carolina DOT to come and see the traffic problem in the summer on a weekend so they can experience it firsthand and help. As far as I know, this has not happened. You must remember this problem is a result of the early stages of the pandemic. Everything was closed: schools, parks, events, stores, restaurants, hairdressers, even libraries. We were run over with people coming to the island because they had nothing else to do. Governor McMaster told people to stay home. With the number of people that came to the beach, social distancing was impossible. You can take a picture at low tide and it looks fine, but what about high tide, where parts of the beach is up to the dunes, as it is in my area? Where parts of the beach is up to dunes. If you think people were social distancing, going and coming on paths that are 3 feet wide, think again. During that time, no one knew how exactly the virus was spread. During this time, I even tried to get away from the amount of people coming to the island. When the county park opened, I went to Palmetto Park to go kayaking, only to be told the kayak ramp was closed. Thank you, Charleston County. I do believe my taxes pay for the parks too. If Charleston County believes in free parking, then open up the IOP County Park to free parking. In the summer, they charge $10 during the week and $15 on the weekend. Except for lifeguards, they supply nothing more than what the town supplies. Let me point out, I was not one of those walking the beach when others could not. No other beach in South Carolina has unlimited free parking. We are no different than any other beach or city or town in South Carolina. There is no way that the barrier islands can accommodate 1 million plus people from the surrounding areas. I do believe we should accommodate parking all we can without overrunning the neighborhoods. We are small. There's only so many cars that will fit. As for the bridge, I have not seen one study that adding bike lanes on each side is beneficial. How many cars come over? How many bikes come over? I have not seen anything on that. There seems to be sufficient rooms for bikes and pedestrians over the connector. Compromising our emergency lane is not an answer. The emergency lane helps all people that come to the island, not just residents. I do believe with the conditions of roads that I travel over South Carolina DOT could find better use for that money.
Ms.
Also-
Hines, that is your 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay. I tried to get quick.
I know you did a great job.
Thank you, council.
Y'all did a great job.
Carry on.
All right, and so next up, we should have Stan Harris. Stan, are you there?
Yep.
So you are currently live. If you would please start by stating your name and address, and then we'll go into your 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Stan Harris. I live at 801 Ocean Boulevard, Isle of Palms.
You will need to mute the YouTube video in order to prevent feedback.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We
Go
can
right
hear you.
ahead.
Okay. My name is Stan Harris. I live at 801 Ocean Boulevard, Isle of Palms. The revocation of the city's 2015 managed beach parking plan is pure political. Our plan was modeled after several cities in the state whose tourism business is a large part of their revenue stream, as is ours. Their plans have remained intact, so far as I know, as of today. Our plan was collaborated with SCTOD leadership and traffic engineers and paid for by IOP residents. We have the right under the law to regulate our roads and streets, whether we own them or not, as long as they are within our jurisdiction. Our responsibility as a city adjacent to a public beach is to manage traffic and the accommodation of visitor vehicles and provide for the safety of our residents, guests, and visitors. We bear the cost of those provisions as well. We accept that responsibility as evidenced by our plan. Our plan enables safe, orderly beach parking in reasonable proximity of our city-owned beach access points. Revoking the plan is in response to political pressure, and without it, any data which demonstrates the abatement of the risk which SCDOT recognized in our plan guarantees harm to all of us. My neighbors and I urge you to continue enforcement of our plan, including modifications, and move forward with paid parking to help offset our increasing cost. Thank you.
See you.
Okay, and so next we are going to have Ted McKnight.
We see you.
There.
Hello.
We can hear you as well.
Good. My name is Ted McKnight, and I'm a resident of the Isle of Palms, along with 43 other Isle of Palm residents. We live
Ted,
here.
Ted, hang on just a second. What's your address for the record?
Yeah, I prefer not to give it to you. I'll tell you secretly, but I don't really want to be public. I live here in the Isle of Palms.
Okay, Ted, keep on.
Thank you. We try very hard to keep our island, including our streets and beaches, safe and clean. Our number one business is tourism, so we want and expect people to come to our island that we call home. We want the people visiting our, our island to acknowledge and respect the fact that we live here, and to help us keep our neighborhoods, streets, and beaches safe and clean. I want to focus on Palm Boulevard and let others talk about other streets here on the Isle of Palms. As you probably know, I've come before you numerous times in the past to talk about the safety of Palm Boulevard as it pertains to parking, vehicles, bicyclists, and pedestrians. The explosion of growth in the Charleston area has resulted in a great increase in our traffic. I sent you an email several days ago in which I set forth the law as it pertains to parking. The law in South Carolina is very clear. Parking is strictly a local issue. It is disturbing to see that the state is trying to encroach on our right to establish parking here on the Isle of Palms. The law also says clearly that the Isle of Palms can charge for our parking. Parking is a safety issue. Parking is also a local issue. State government, including state agencies, have enough to do dealing with state issues. The state, either directly or indirectly, is trying to do an end run around the law, and it doesn't need to be telling us what to do with our parking. The only thing the state can do with regards to parking is to eliminate it, and only if there is a hazardous condition. Keeping our streets and beaches safe and clean, considering all the costs Isle of Palms more than $5 million. The amount collected by Isle of Palms is less than 20% of our costs. Tourism is a big business for us, and as a result, Isle of Palms sends more than $10 million to Columbia each year, and we get very little, if anything, back. The Isle of Palms sends Charleston County more than $5 million, and again, gets very little back. Maintenance of highway right-of-ways are the responsibility of the government claiming it. If South Carolina wants to claim Palm Boulevard, then pay for its maintenance. There's a huge drainage problem, fix it now. We need bicycle lanes, add them now. Same with sidewalks, safe shoulders, and berms. People coming to our beaches pay for transportation to get here.
Mr.
They
McKnight,
pay for beach chairs, umbrellas, beach wear, boogie boards, sunscreen, coolers with lots of food and beverage. And yet
Mr.
want to
McKnight.
complain about
Mr.
a small fee for parking. They pay for parking other places. They need to pay for parking here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Thank you everyone who's spoken today. Just so everyone knows, we have received well over 100 emails. They can all be found online and read. So thank you all for signing up to speak this afternoon. We are very fortunate to have as our guest to inform our council and the watching public the SDDOT's new Secretary of Transportation, Christy Hall. And for her to give us SDDOT's new position on the city's 2015 managed beach parking plan and consideration of options that we may have. Secretary Hall, I don't envy your positions. As I've said many times, you're doing your job at the behest of your bosses, the State Transportation Committee. I also would like to thank you for surprising us yesterday and today with the right-of-way improvements. So thank you very much. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Mayor and members of council, thank you so much for the invitation to speak with you today. I've had plenty of opportunities over the last several weeks to have conversations with the mayor and the administrator about this issue and other evolving issues in and around the coast. And again, just appreciate the opportunity to be able to address you directly. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for the hospitality the Isle of Palms exhibited for the Beach Advocates meeting day before yesterday. It was obviously a great day to be down on the Isle of Palms, and I appreciate the hospitality exhibited by the city there. So I have a few things that I'd like to, I guess, kind of go over from the DOT's perspective, and then hopefully we can work towards a constructive dialogue going forward. Obviously, this is a very difficult issue for both the local government and the state government. So if you would just permit me just to share a few thoughts with you as we go into it. Is that acceptable,
Yes,
Mayor? Okay.
you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. So I kind of want to back up just a little bit and talk about kind of, a little broader issue for us. The DOT, we are responsible for the 4th largest state highway system in the nation. And so what that means is that, in other states, roads that are owned, maintained, and operated by a county government or city government in these other states is, unfortunately, here in South Carolina, under the purview of the South Carolina DOT. So to that end, the vast majority of the roads there on the Isle of Palms are state-owned highways. Not all of them, of course, as you know. There's some private roads inside the Wild Dunes development, and of course, the city there has some city maintained. We've previously allowed wide discretion with regards to state highways, whether it was road closures for festivals or parades, talking about parking, and that discretion continued into the pandemic that we're dealing with here since last spring, spring of 2020. There were blockades that many local governments erected to restrict traffic on and off of, into and out of their communities. There were sidewalks, requests to use sidewalks, and even some travel lanes and existing parking areas to expand restaurant seating capabilities to kind of help facilitate that outdoor seating arrangement for social distancing and things like that. We were all trying to figure this thing out together, as one of your previous speakers mentioned. Nobody, there wasn't really a playbook for how to deal with COVID-19, and we're all figuring out together, including parking restrictions that local governments like the Isle of Palms implemented. Again, we were all trying to figure this thing out together. So did the South Carolina DOT, were we excited about the blockades? Did we get pushback from others about the blockades? Do we get pushback about allowing local governments to use the sidewalks and travel lanes? Did we get pushbacks about the parking restrictions? Absolutely, we did. And I imagine you all did as well. But my rule of thumb that I was using at the time was, is what the local government's doing in this emergency situation fair and reasonable? Do I feel like they are making fair and reasonable decisions based on what they, based on what they believe is appropriate to protect their communities? And so at that particular time, we didn't interfere in dealing with the issues in the communities, including Isle of Palms at that time. But we did act when we felt like it crossed over that fair and reasonable threshold test for us. I would argue that there is no dispute that South Carolina DOT, that we have exclusive authority over the state-owned highway system and any permits that the Department of Transportation issues to entities, whether it's a utility company doing work, a contractor doing work, local government wanting to do different types of activities on the state highway right away. We've tried to partner with a lot of our local government entities with regards to what's going on within the municipal government boundaries. But at the end of the day, the state DOT has a responsibility beyond that particular item. We have a responsibility to work with the local governments, the county governments, be cognizant of the region and be cognizant of the state interest as well as the national interest. Now, certainly parking, I would argue, is probably not connected directly to a national interest, but if you think about the system as a whole, we have to be aware of what's happening in our neighboring states as well, as far as the movement of people and goods across the region. So my point in bringing this up is that, we have a great responsibility to look outside of just a particular area where events are happening. And as you know, and as evidenced in this whole issue that we are here to talk about today, there's often competing interests on most all issues that we have to deal with, especially parking, especially in this environment. And I think our task is to try to strike the right balance between those competing interests as best as we can within our abilities.